Today it's going to be a little bit of a fun video for you. We're going to see what kind of strange things we can find in my sewing room. Hi, this is Kim from Dorothy's Daughter. Welcome to my channel. If you're looking to take your sewing to the next level, you are in the right place. So I've got a bit of a fun video for you today. I kind of went around my sewing room and I gathered up all the strange things that you wouldn't think would belong in a sewing room. So I've got several to show you today, some maybe useful hacks that might be useful for some of you. Everything has three purposes, I think. The one it's made for, and at least two other things that it gets used for. So that's what some of this is. And I'm sure there are things that you've brought into your sewing room, not used for the intended purpose, but works really great for another task. Before I get to that, a few people told me that when they click the bell and they have notifications enabled, they're still not getting notified like when I do a live and that kind of thing. If you want to always be notified whenever I upload something or go live, click that bell and make sure it is set to all. If you only have it on whatever the other one is, there's off, another one, and then all. You won't get every single notification, and it's just up to whether YouTube thinks you would want it or not. And I guess it probably depends on how well the last video did. So I would turn them to all if you don't want to miss a live session. So I had a couple people tell me that they didn't get notified this week. So just wanted to throw that out there. I did a little research and found out that that happens to a lot of people. So. All right, so I have picked a bunch of things out of my sewing room to share with you today that really belong either in the kitchen or in the laundry room or some other place in the house, but they have a use for me here in the sewing room, and some of them are more useful than others. Some of them are almost laughable, but I use them. So nothing on this table is anything that I don't regularly use for what I'm about to tell you. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start off with this thing. I bought this at the dollar store. You know, for elderly and handicapped people, how you have the grabbers, right? All right, so I have one of these in my sewing machine because it is very hard on your back to sit and sew for hours and hours and hours. And then if you drop something on the floor, sometimes they go way behind the machine, like a bobbin or something like a piece of PDF pattern that you would cut away. And you try to make the trash basket, but you miss, and it goes way back behind the sewing machines. So this is what I have that for. It works well. It only costs $1. And, to be honest, it's probably my knee injury that necessitates it a bit. But I think that really a lot of us could benefit from this because it is hard on your back to sit and sew all day. So keep that in mind. I know that they have better ones for, in the actual medical supply places, and I don't think they're terribly expensive either, but I saw this at the dollar store and thought, hey, why not? Actually, I bought this because a friend of mine wanted me to make a cover for her mom's grabber, so I actually bought this to make a pattern off of, but I use it. Next, we have freezer paper. This one isn't as crazy out there as some of the others. But if you want to do any kind of stenciling, you can cut the stencil on the freezer paper and iron it on your fabric, and then you can paint or ink or whatever it is you so desire. So I use this a lot in conjunction with my silhouette machine. And another thing I like to do with this freezer paper is I use it to stiffen the fabric that I've treated to print on. So you iron it to the freezer paper, and then it's stiff enough to go through the printer. So that's another thing you use it for. So I don't keep this in my kitchen. I keep it up here. If I need any in my kitchen, I come up here and get it. Next thing is kind of obvious, I guess, but my husband for Christmas was looking for something, you know, sort of sewing related for me, and he bought me this little pink tool set. And I'm telling you what, I use this so much for buttons, snaps, you name it. And also, this screwdriver has a whole bunch of different ends, which is really nice when you need a screwdriver to get into something on your machine. It's really nice to have one that has all the, I don't even have them all here, has all these different tips and sizes that you might need for, you know, just doing things with your sewing machine. Or I use it a lot actually, and the hammer, of course, is the most used thing in this tool set for buttons, you know, the metal buttons and snaps and whatnot. Moving right along, did you know that if you take Reynolds wrap or any kind of aluminum, this isn't a commercial for Reynolds. You can buy the dollar store stuff. It's fine. You just take and ball up some aluminum foil. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Ball up some aluminum foil and take your rotary cutter and just go back and forth over it a whole bunch of times. It will sharpen your blade. So that's a good thing to have in your sewing room as well. Okay, so that was number 3. All right, now the 4th thing, a lint roller. Yes, I have dog hair in my house, and yes, I do use this to get dog hair off of fabric, but mainly I use this to, you know, when you rip out serging, when you rip out a serger seam, you get a whole bunch of little pieces of thread that just sort of linger on the fabric. These go right away when you use a lint roller. So you can pick them right up and no problem. Another thing I use it for is when I'm cutting vinyl, and there are all the little pieces that you've weeded out of your design, you can pick them up and keep them out of your way. So that is a great tool to have in the sewing room. So here's a paintbrush, specifically a wooden paintbrush. And you know, I do use these for crafting up here, for applying ink and that kind of thing. But one day I needed a point turner, and not one that had a really sharp point because I didn't want to poke through the fabric. It was very delicate fabric. So I grabbed this paintbrush and used this end, and oh my goodness, it was fantastic as a point turner. So a wooden paintbrush with a rounded end, perfect for turning points in very delicate fabric. All right, that was number 5. Okay, this little gem is something that my husband picked up for me at Harbor Freight. I think it was a couple dollars. It's a telescoping magnet that you can just take and kind of go over the floor and pick up all of your pins. So you can no longer be stepping all over pins. When you drop something, you can use the magnet to pick it up. Next, I have old gift cards. Actually, this is a hotel key, and this is a gift card, I guess, or a discount card of some kind. You can use old credit cards, but I wouldn't use them in a video, you know, just because I don't, the numbers may still be the same. I don't know. So a key card and a gift card. So neither of which are active anymore. But I'm going to show you here in just a moment what I do with that with the cover stitch machine. It has a very important function. So you're going to cover stitch, and at the end you want to make sure you get the threads pulled to the back so that it is secured. So I'm just going to cover stitch for a little while. Cover stitching will never rip from the start end, only from the end. Okay, so now let's say I need to take this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my presser foot, and I'm going to grab these needle threads with my tweezers and I'm going to pull them. Out just maybe that much. So after I pulled them, then I'm going to use the card to pull the threads to the back, and then I'm going to bring them around to cut them. And then as I ease up on the tension of the looper thread underneath, I can just pull it out and all the threads are on the back. So that card comes in handy to sort of pull the threads through. So that's what I use this handy dandy hotel card for. The next thing is good old painter's tape. Now you can use this to mark a seam allowance if you want to, because it comes right off without making anything sticky. But what I use it for is when I pre-wash fabric, I take a little bit of blue tape and I just stick it somewhere on the inside. So I know if I pick up this fabric, I see this and I know it's been washed. And it's just a system I've had. I don't use the masking tape because some of the fabric companies use masking tape to write things on the fabric, like the yardage and whatnot. So I use the painter's tape, the blue stuff, and when I see this, I don't write anything on it or anything. I just see this and I know it's been pre-washed. But you can also put a little stripe on your sewing machine bed to mark your seam allowance as well. Next is wax paper. So wax paper is great when you want to embellish a garment and you cut a vinyl design and you have this adhesive sheet that has vinyl on it, but it will stick to everything. So if you stick them to wax paper, then you can keep the designs as long as you need to. So if you're going to cut a whole bunch of things ahead and only heat your room up like once a week with the heat press, because it does heat the room up, you can just put them all on wax paper, save them up, and just have one big pressing session where you apply all of them and they've all been stuck to wax paper and they will not stick to the wax paper. Now, I will warn you, do not use an off-brand. This is the one thing that I would say don't use an off-brand, because I bought some at the dollar store and it actually had more paper in it than the wax. And so it actually, it did stick and I got a lot of paper on the adhesive when I pulled it off. It didn't really affect my design, but you know, you don't want to have paper in the way when you're putting a design on fabric. So buy the good stuff. I don't know if this is the only brand, but it's the only one I've ever seen that's, you know, not generic. All right, moving along is a Lego. And I'm going to show you in a moment what I do with this Lego. Okay, so the Lego, you can use tacky glue or you can use painter's tape, anything that doesn't stay on your machine, and just use it for a seam guide. You can set that anywhere you need it to be. And obviously the tacky stuff is better than this. And you can just set that up there, and then as you stitch, you just butt it up against the Lego. And you have a great seam guide, and it's going to be nice and straight. Isn't it nice to know that these can be useful for more than stepping on in the middle of the night? I had to go raid my grandkids' Legos to have one in here. Alright, and then if you have been on my chats, you will have seen this one already. These are dryer sheets, and if you have an iron that has just a little stickiness on it, and you don't have time to clean it properly, you can just iron one of these sheets and it'll just make it nice and it'll make it slide nice again for you till you get a chance to clean it better. It's not a substitute for cleaning your iron regularly, but it does help you in a bind when you just need to make that iron work better in a hurry. And the very last thing, I think, if I got any more sitting around here. Oh, I'm sure there's more in this room, but these are the ones I kind of went around and found. These are hair ties. And I'm also going to show you in a moment how you can use these to mark your seam allowance in a really nice way that you can actually butt the fabric up against. I'm going to show you that in a moment. The hair tie is also a great seam guide. So what you do is you take your free arm off and you just slide this on over, and you can move this anywhere on the machine bed that you need it to be. And on some machines, I'm not sure if I can with this one, but on some machines you can actually put the free arm back on. But this one's kind of a nice and tight for that. But once you have that there, you can just line up your fabric and keep going, and you know it's always going to be straight. It's just another way of creating a seam guide without doing anything to the inside of your machine or sticking anything on it. Painter's tape, like the Lego thing, is removable, and you know nothing here is going to damage your machine. So I'm sure all of you have your favorite things that you've repurposed into your sewing room. So in the comments, tell me what you actually have in your sewing room or in your sewing space, whatever it is, that you have borrowed from another area of the house. It's really kind of fun to come up with things that help you out, and they don't cost a dime because you already have them. So, well, that's all I have. A bit of a fun short one today. I will be doing Serger Basics next. Until then, I hope that you are blessed, and I hope that you have time to sew, and that your sewing time is a nice getaway and a fun thing for you to do. Happy sewing. I'll see you soon.